Hey everybody, it's Dana, and welcome to the Altenew July 2024 release video hop. I'm so happy to be here with you today, and we're going to make one fantastic card using some of the new products from this release. So let's go ahead and get started. So for my card today, I am using the oh so gorgeous Flutter and Bloom stamp set. Look how large this stamp set is. You have these gorgeous floral images, these huge butterflies, and tons of sentiments. Now, you can also get the Flutter by coordinating embossing folder, as well as a coordinating stencil. And this stencil layers up like a dream. You can also purchase yourself the dies, or you can grab them all in a bundle, which will make all of your shopping pleasure just a little bit easier. So for my card, I'm going to go ahead and first share with you what I like about Altenew is that they give you these visual guides. Now, if you're stumped and you don't know what color combination you want, when you open up these pamphlets with the stamp sets, they'll have a coordinating guide. And it'll also show you some coordinating products that will go with the stamp set. And it gives you a list of colors that you can use as well. So if you don't want to think of your own color combination, you can use one that Altenew has already provided for you. I'm going to make my life easy today, and I'm going to use my stamp wheel from Altenew. Now, if you don't have a stamp wheel, you can use a grip mat, or you can as well use your MISTI tool. I'm going to place this down and then I'm going to line up my stamp set. So like I said, there are two large floral images in here. I'm going to use the smaller of the two. Now, when I line this up, I want to make sure first that my paper is straight. So I'm going to line that up one more time because I can see on camera I was a little bit shifted. And I keep looking at the palms of my hand because I keep thinking I have ink on them, but I don't, thank God. So now I can go ahead and line this up. Now, what I want to do is I want to get this to be on both edges of my card panel. So you'll see I'm going to shift my paper just a little bit, and I want to make sure that I have just enough room on the corner to place it down this beautiful image because I want to do a mirror image of it right across from it. So if I put it down in the corner, that's going to allow me some room at the top to rotate this around. Now I'll come in with the top to my stamp wheel. Go ahead and press that down. And then I can flip this over. Now, what's so easy about the stamp wheel, if you don't have it, it's great if you need to rotate an image as making like a wreath. I love the stamp wheel because it gives me a lot of versatility of how I can lay out my images. Now I'm going to flip that over and I put a little purple enamel dot in the corner. So I always know that I'm going to put that when I start into the left-hand side of my stamp wheel. Now you don't have to do that if you don't want. It just gives me a visual guide when I am turning my stamp wheel to make a design. You'll see that I have them in two corners and that just gives me a little bit of guidance. Now I can take it and I can pop it into my other corner, and I know I'm going to be able to have this image be a mirror image across from my card panel, leaving me a little bit of an opening that I can put in a sentiment. So now I just put that little dot up in the right-hand corner. I can press that down, and I know I'm going to have a nice mirrored image on the opposite side, and I was able to fit these two gorgeous bouquets just on this one A2 size card base. So, our card panel rather. And this is a standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now, as I have mentioned, there are coordinating stencils for this. But today I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I reached for my Altenew alcohol markers. I don't use these nearly enough. And I wanted to kind of have a card that was not fully colored. I wanted to give us like a focal point and not actually have everything colored. This is going to allow me to have some color on the card, but I'm not saturating it. So I picked out three colors here. This is from the Mystic Garden set. And like I said, these are the Altenew alcohol markers. I am going to zoom in just a little bit here. And you can also see that I'm working on a clipboard that has paper behind it. I like to, when I'm using alcohol markers, I like to have a clipboard behind with paper because it kind of helps me soak up the ink into the cardstock itself. So now I'm just going to go in and do some really light coloring here. This is just how I color when I'm just trying to get back into the groove of things, of using a product that I might have set aside and have not used for a while. So I'm going to come in with my lightest color first and add that towards the center. And then I'll go ahead and add more color. Now, if you wanted to, you can go darker on this, you can go lighter on this. It's totally up to you. But that's how I kind of like to start usually when I'm doing any kind of alcohol markers. So as you can see, I'm just bringing that color a little bit further out into the flower. Now, what's so great about the video release today is, like I said, Altenew has a ton of great releases. This month, as usual, we have stamp sets, we have dies, we have embossing folders. We also have inks, which I love. Altenew inks. I've actually have quite a few of them now, and I'm really falling in love with them. Now, I did decide to come in with the deepest color and add that now back to the middle. Now, if you watched any of my videos before when I'm using alcohol markers, I always like to put down a base layer of color. To me, if I put down the lightest shade as a base color and I build up upon that shade, I have a smoother blend. It seems like the marker is accepted a little bit more on the paper and it gives me a better blend. Now, I do know some people that automatically start out coloring dark, but I just have a little bit of fear of that. As if I put down too much color, I'm not going to be able to take that away. And by adding that little bit of a light color underneath, it seems to work best for me. But remember, whatever works best for you, that's what you should do. All right, now I'm going to come back in and start blending out those colors. I'll go back through my lightest, my medium, and my dark, and I'll bring that all the way out to the end. So as you can see, I have this nice color blend going across this image. Now, again, remember I said earlier in the video that there were color palettes that you can pick from. You could also look at the color palettes that's in the pamphlet and decide on what markers to use instead of the inks. So keep that in mind as well. You can transfer these over from just alcohol markers to your ink colors. I also have a playlist where I did color mixing with markers and inks for my holiday card series. I'll make sure to go ahead and link that down below so you can check that out. I'll show you how you can have one color of inks and how that can translate over into your markers. All right, I'm going to finish up this flower here. And again, I'm just bringing in some of that color. And usually I might allow the tips of my flowers to be white, but I have a little bit of trick to add some of that highlight, or maybe not so much of a highlight, but a nice bounce of white color on this. And I'll show you that a little bit later in the video. So as I said, I'm just coming back through here and I'm coloring up this flower. And this is going to be like my spotlight image on my card. And as you can see, I'm coloring this in real time. And you can see it's not taking me very long at all to achieve this look. Now I went ahead and I colored the opposite flower just the same way that I did the first one. So this is going to be where my spotlight or my punch of color is going to be. Now I'm going to grab back my markers and I'm going to go ahead and grab out 3 greens. Now we're all to new markers. There's always going to be 4 shades. I'm just picking the light, medium, and next to the darkest color, like the first 3 that lined up. Those are the colors I'm going to use for today. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and start coloring in my leaves. Again, you'll see that I start off first by adding a light flick of color in there. Because again, remember, when I have a color base down, I find that my ink blends better on the paper. So by adding this base layer, which is my lightest shade, I'm going to be able to achieve that nice color blend without really trying to force anything. So I'll go ahead and rotate my paper around, and I'll go ahead and do that to the other side. Now it's time to come in with that medium shade. Like I said, I'm building up this color because it's going to allow me to have a better blend. Now, again, if you're stumped on a color palette, go ahead and reach for that pamphlet that you have the colors on. That's going to make this so much easier. And especially if you're using the stencils. If somebody gives you a color palette, use it. Use it for your first card, and then you can grow from there. But this way, you're not really struggling on what color combinations to put together. So as you can see, I'm bringing out that color just a little bit more into my card, and I'm focusing on the areas that I want to have just a tad bit darker. Now I will bring in the last color, and this is the darkest color. Now with the darkest color, I'm going to use this very, very sparsely. I'm not going to add a lot. I'm just going to add where my shadows would be. Because if I put too much down at this point, remember, I cannot take this color away. So I'm adding it just where I know my shadows are going to be, and I'm adding it in a little at a time. So you can see I'm just coming underneath where that flower is, and I'm just pulling that color out ever so slightly. So before we finish up our coloring, I just want to remind everybody that you need to leave comments for a chance to win. For all the Altenew hops, there's always great prizes, and there is $300 worth of prizes up for grab. So make sure to comment on the videos. And also, if you would for me, would you like and share my videos as well? And if you're new here, come on and subscribe so you can hang out with me when I have tutorials. All right, let's get back to the coloring. Now, since I have that darker color, I'm going to come right back in with the lightest of my shades and blend everything out. Now, I will have all the supplies that I use today. They'll be listed below in the description. And I'll also make sure to put that link to the video that I share during the holidays on how to pick your color palettes that go from markers, or excuse me, from ink pads all the way over to markers. So as you can see, this was such a very easy card to do. Now, this is where I say we're going to step things up just a little bit. Remember when I said that if you lose your white highlight, how you can kind of bring that white back in? So for me, I'm using a white jelly roll pen here, and I'm going to use that to add in some stippling of white. So if you don't want to leave white tips, or you're a little bit nervous, or your blending gets a little bit heavy, this is a great way to add a little bit more of white or like a highlight back without worrying that you lost it. And plus, it's going to give these flowers just a little bit of dimension and a little bit of fun. So that's how I like to just kind of add this in. And again, I'm working to get my mojo back here. So this is something that I thought I could just pull out of my repertoire and use it for this card. And look how pretty that is just by adding those white polka dots. Now for the centers of my flowers, I'm going to grab out the Beach Garden set. This is such a fun set of alcohol markers, and I'm going to use a really nice yellow just to fill in the center of my flowers. And as you can see, I'm actually using the bullet tip of my marker because this is going to allow me to get into that really tight space. Now for the rest of the card. Remember, I only wanted a spotlight. So I'm going to use the WG01 to go around these flowers. This is going to allow a little bit of depth in my flowers. And it's also going to almost simulate as if there is a little bit of dimension. I'm also going to add this gray to the flowers itself because we know white is a flat color. If we don't have some grays in it or maybe a little bit of blue, your project could fall flat. So by adding just a little bit of gray, and I mean, I'm not coloring these gray, I'm just adding in a touch of that gray to each of the flowers and to each of the leaves. And that's going to allow me to have just a touch of color, but my focus is still going to be on the flower and the leaves that I colored. So as you can see, between the two of these, you can see there's some richness on the one at the top, and the one at the bottom kind of still falls flat. So by adding just that little bit, and I mean just a little bit, is going to actually make these flowers look a little bit more rounded, as well as the leaves will look a little bit more rounded. And lastly, with this marker, I'm going to come in and I'm going to go around the outside of the flowers. This is going to, like I said, allow my flowers to look like they're kind of standing off the page, even when they're not. I did this for a card I believe I shared with Simon Says Stamp, and it made the sentiment look like it was kind of raised up off of the card. And this is a great way to do that if you have a flat card like this. You can add a little bit of dimension just by adding a touch of gray and outlining what you've already colored. I used to use this a lot, and then I kind of fell off and I didn't use it. So it's another thing that I'm just bringing back around while I'm trying to catch up to my mojo. And this really does make the card stand out just a wee bit more. Now you can also do this with blue and it'll look just as gorgeous. Now look how pretty that is. We just have two really pretty spotlight images right in the center. It's going to draw your eye to the center. And now all we have to do is place a sentiment down. So how easy is this card to put together? It's super, super easy. Again, if you throw on a little bit of music, grab yourself a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and do some light coloring. It'll really help you be creative again. So as you can see, there are a ton of sentiments in here. So right now, I'm just trying to pick the one that I think is going to settle in nicely right between those two flowers. Now for this, I am going to bring in my MISTI for this one, and I'll go ahead and line that up right at the bottom and place down that magnet. Now, if you really wanted to make this stand out even more, I have another suggestion for you. You can color in all of the white area between the two flowers in black or navy. That would totally make this pop. And just remember, if you do decide to do that, you're obviously going to have your sentiment in white or gold. And I would then suggest probably heat embossing it as well. So I went ahead and I picked that Love You because it was just perfect to sit right between the two of these. And then I can go ahead and stamp this. For the life of me today, I could not find my black Altenew ink. So I did choose to use VersaFine, but you can also use the Obsidian black ink as well from Altenew. And that is a very nice crisp black color. So as you can see, I can have that lined up right in the middle. And I kind of like to hover first before I press down my stamp, just to make sure it's where I need it to be before I press down. Now, if you wanted to, you can add in a piece of acetate, test your position of your sentiment. And then if you know you have it right, remove out the acetate and then go ahead and stamp it directly on your project, just in case you're just a little bit worried of messing everything up after you color. But I think this looks gorgeous smack right in the middle. Now, to finish off the card today, I did trim down this piece just a little bit because I did want to have a nice black border around the image onto a white card base. I think that fits nicely with adding just the black down the sides, and it really does make your eyes come back towards the middle. So don't forget, you guys, if you are wanting to win some of the prizes, make sure to leave comments. Also, like I said, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. If you've been with me for a while on my channel, thank you so much for sticking around and waiting for my return. I know it's been a minute. I know I've been getting a little bit of messages asking where I was. Life just happens to be lifing right now, y'all. That's to be honest. I'm about to become a grandmother for the first time, so I'm super, super excited, nervous, jitters, just all the things. And I decided it was probably in my best interest to kind of just step away, kind of decompress all this anxiety, make sure I'm in a good headspace, just not for myself, but also for my family and friends. And guess what? Sometimes you just have to do it. And it's not being selfish. It's it's taking care of yourself. It's giving yourself self-love to make sure that you are always going to be the best version of yourself. And guess what? If things shift in life and they're not how you expected them to be, you can always pivot. You can always pivot. Remember that. So now we have this gorgeous card, but then I decided I wanted to add a little bit more green to this because we had the focal, right? And I just felt like the white was just a little bit too stark. So I grabbed one of the green markers and I'm just going to do a little bit of faux stitching that's going to connect the flowers. So I'll just go down the top and the bottom, swing that around on the side, and I like how that looks. And again, I'll do the rest of it here. Don't mind that little curl that happens to be peeking out at the top. I wanted to make its little bit of a debut a little bit late in the video. That's what happens when you have curly hair and your camera's overhead. All right, I like that much better. Now, I did decide that I wanted to darken up that green. It was just a little bit too light. And again, these are all those finishing touches that you can decide to add. You don't have to add. It's totally up to you. It's your card, it's your creations. Just have fun while you do it. All right, that's going to wrap up the card today. I will have the next person on the hop listed below. So make sure to go ahead and check out their video. And I will also link a couple of videos here at the end for you to check out as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, you guys. Good luck, and I'll see you guys back here soon. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.